come back at a time where you guys are both grown men at this point, but that college mentality still kind of pops out a little bit.
Oh yeah, absolutely, absolutely. I mean, I can't speak for him. I'll let him speak for himself. But I enjoy whooping his ass for sure. That's for sure.
Oh, oh, but you know what? I'm gonna have to ask him about that now. But speaking of AJ, did how did AJ approach you about coaching, and what was his pitch to be like, hey, let's do this UFL thing?
So I worked with AJ in up it was in like the Florence area, Huntsville area. I'm
Hmm.
trying to think of the name of that high school, Brad. It's the same high school that Brent Calloway went to say that.
Gotcha.
And we were doing a Special Olympics football camp.
Hmm.
So we were working with kids that have special needs, and different things like that, and just teaching them as much as we could about the early stages of football. And I had seen AJ on the sideline a few times when I was doing the Crimson Tide Sports Network thing, and then, just getting back to Tuscaloosa, I passed by him a few times. But it was there working with them kids that we kind of showed up back into each other's life, start to communicate a little bit more, just from that one great deed right there. And I saw him, I heard rumor of him actually taking the job, and it was, a thing where I kind of reached out to him and was like, hey man, if this is true, I would love to come and help, establish the culture that I know you would see fit, for your football team. That's coming through me. That's what I'm teaching. And if you are trying to implement, anything from what we did in Tuscaloosa into your culture, I'm the guy, the call. So, and I think he agreed with that. So, it just came from that. When I recruited AJ, AJ come in a class after me, so he kind of walked into a culture that we were setting. He definitely brought a lot to that culture, a lot of winning to that culture. He fit right in. He was the perfect quarterback for the situation. So, like I said, that's how it all came about. Me and AJ was doing, something positive for the community up in North Alabama, and that just kind of put us back into each other's life. And God does things in mysterious ways, and I think that he was kind of like, putting this together right then and there.
For sure. No, that's perfect. I totally understand that. You know, in that moment when you guys were together at that camp, and you're working, with the Special Olympics, and did you think, oh, this chance meeting is going to lead to coaching?
No, I did not think that. I knew that AJ was doing some media things, and that's also a avenue that I like to participate in too. So I thought some things would come from maybe me showing up on his podcast here and there, just kind of meshing my brand with his brand to keep things alive, and just to see my brother, just to see him again, see his kids. I got a chance to meet his kids, that day, and just to have a time to just talk about whatever we wanted to talk about, and just blend with each other. I didn't think that football would come from that, but I was curious about how the universe kind of put that together, because it was random. I didn't know he was going to be there. I was coming, just to do, what I had to do, for the kids, and show my presence and give them all that I could. And, it was just icing on the cake to see my quarterback. So no, I did not know that, but I knew that some good things was going to come from two good men, just rekindling a relationship that came from championships. So,
For sure, for sure. And excuse me, if you could go back to that bond you and AJ first shared. I believe you said that you helped recruit him to Alabama.
I mean, he was coming.
Sure.
He was on the way for sure. But AJ played with Mark Barron and Ivan Matchett,
Hmm.
which were two guys that signed in my class from St. Paul's to come to Bama. Um, so, like I said, that was the relationship that we had, because he would come up and do 7-on-7 with those guys. So going into his senior year, I got a chance to meet him because I was in Tuscaloosa doing camps and just meeting the new guys that I was about to, play football with for the next 5 years. So within that, that's how I met AJ. But me and AJ Bond just come from straight competitors. I mean, he's just such a competitor. He's a guy that hates to lose at much anything. If you don't know that about AJ, you don't have eyes. You know what I'm saying? And then the same thing with me. I'm not trying to lose at nothing. I mean, we could be walking to open the door. I'm trying to get there first. You know what I'm saying? So, just I've always admired that about AJ. I've always admired how AJ ethics never changed in that environment. I mean, that environment was full of like super competitive humans, with some of the craziest personalities, right? Just very barbaric human beings, and we put AJ in some circumstances as a young boy, and he came out on the right side every time, and I think that's why you see the support from any group of guys that played with AJ, because AJ played with guys that I did not touch the field with, because he played beyond my time.
Sure.
But what you would get from everybody that touched the field with 10 is that 10 is just a fierce competitor. And if you had to choose a guy to go into battle with, you would choose him, So I think that bond is what me and AJ have. And I think that energy just brought us back, to this situation, because in school, we wasn't, the guys to catch up, after practice or anything like that. It was definitely a football relationship. But I think he always admired the way that I went about my work and led, my side of the ball. And I've always admired the way that he understood the power chain as well and led his side of the ball. And I think that just that whole understanding that AJ have about group and about men is what you are gonna see happen here with the Birmingham Stallions, just from the results that we're gonna get from these guys.
Sure, for sure. What drew you to coaching? Because I know with some guys, they finish playing, but there's a competitive edge. But then some guys finish playing and then they love the teaching aspect of the game. What is it that drew you to, okay, let's get back on the field, but in a different capacity?
So I just wanted to be involved in the process of developing men. And football is a very concentrated area where you can do that.
Sure.
You know what I'm saying? I thought about a lot of different ways of doing it, possibly, opening up my own, service of helping young men and, helping them navigate through their later teen years and going into their adulthood, because that's so critical for men in that spot, and the decisions that they make, it kind of make or break their life. So I wanted to be in an area where I could impact young men fast and often. And when I looked at that, coaching was not necessarily on the top of the list, but after evaluating it over and over again, there's no better space to be in and affect men than coaching.
Sure.
Because even when you're in a school, I'm not saying that I don't want to affect young women or, other things. But you have purpose in your life at certain times. And right now, my purpose right now is to help young men in their, like I said, late teen years going into their adulthood. And when I saw the opportunity in coaching, and it all started off at West Alabama, I just thought it would be a great place to pour it into an area that did something for me. You know what I'm saying? And Tuscaloosa did a lot for me. Alabama, the state itself, did a lot for me. Really changed my life, changed my brand. I still benefited. I still benefit from it, till this day. So, just all of that in the pot, being able to coach, being able to affect young men, being able to be back in Southern Alabama or Central Alabama, however you want to, locate Livingston. That is what made me say, okay, yeah, coaching is the avenue. And then I did a minority coaching internship with the NFL, got a chance to just see how the day worked, see if it fit in my life, see if I like living a life like that. And I did. I enjoyed the schedule. I enjoyed the impact. It was enough for me to get some me time for myself and make it to the next day, also get to my family. So I had a few pre-trials of seeing if this coaching thing could fit into my life and my purpose, and it was just like Legos. It was perfect, you know.
I like that. I like that. Just like Legos. Who was that internship with, if you don't mind me asking?
It's with the Rams.
Okay. Oh, okay.
Minority I was with McVay, which is another young coach. You know, they got into the business young and really, really, ran up the hill really fast. But it was with Sean McVay and it was by way of Giff Smith, who was my
Ooh,
defensive line coach at the Chargers.
okay.
And Giff,
Okay.
he's an Atlanta guy, played at
Mhm.
Georgia Southern, coached in many different places. But through Giff Smith, he got me that opportunity with Sean McVay.
Nice, nice.
Now I'm back coaching pro ball again. You
Yep.
know,
Well, speaking of that, you spend time in the NFL, and then you have the XFL, now the UFL. What have you seen from the league that impressed you? Because it's been in operation for about 3-4 years now. So I just wanted to see kind of like what are your thoughts on the league as a whole? Some of the talent that you've seen kind of come through. I know some guys have had a cup of coffee in the NFL for a little bit. So just kind of your assessment of the UFL.
the professionalism. These guys feel the same way, and I think that's important when you're dealing with guys of this caliber, right? These guys could be scoring, they could be broken, um, they could be remorseful, right? Just because of the process that they um not remorseful, resentful
Sure.
because of the process that they've had with the NFL. And I think that this league has done a really good job of making these guys feel no different so that they could get that kind of performance out of these guys, right? Um, and that's what I've seen is that the facilities are top tier. The organization is top tier. The communication is top tier. Um, the operation is clear, right? It's not all over the place. The chain of command is clear, very similar to the big leagues. And I think whenever you provide those intangibles, it also provides these guys a platform to get the best from them. And that's what the NFL is. That's what the NBA is. It's
Sure.
a space where you're providing all the things that an athlete may need to be the best that they can be. This league is nothing short of that. That's what I would say.
Okay. Okay. Are there any coaching philosophies from Coach Saban that you would like to implement into your coaching style?
Um, everything.
That works too.
That man did. For me, the one thing that I will speak about, I'm not gonna get into the details of how I get my man better. But I would say cracking a smile every once in a while, right? Within
Yeah,
the work and appreciating them. I think one of the greatest things that Coach Saban did was he never ever made us feel like we wasn't the most important thing to the operation because we were, And when he spoke of us, spoke to us, or about us, you could hear that we were the most important thing, right? Do
mhm,
right by these guys, get these guys the resources that they need. If these guys succeed, we succeed. If those things don't happen, nothing else happens, right? Nothing else is good. We're not doing what we're here to do, and that's serve these guys.
sure.
And I think that's something that I take from coach that I implement in my coaching every day is when my guys leave me, I want them to know that I came to serve them. And then I also want to check and see if I serve them from a checks and balances standpoint before they leave my presence every day, because I want them to know that no matter what happens today, my purpose showing up here is to serve you guys. And if I'm not doing that, then I need to communicate and we need to go through a process of elimination to get to doing that to the best of my ability. Because as long as I keep that the main thing, then this thing will be healthy. You know what
For
I'm
sure.
saying? So I think that that's something that I take from coaches, just always letting my guys know that I am here for you. You're not here for
Right. Right. No, I
me. Yeah.
appreciate that. Lastly, and we'll get you out of here. What have you learned in the NFL that you can, kind of impart and help mentor these players with?
A man's best ability is his ability to move forward.
Mm.
That's that.
Simple.
And no matter what you've experienced, no matter what success you've had, bad, good, or great, a man's best ability is his ability